Every single one of us gets challenged all the time by being around people who we disagree with. And that challenge is really about how to be civil or get along. But Jesus doesn't just ask us that. He says, I want you to love one another in the very same way that I have loved you. Wow. We're going to need his help for that. Because you know what? We do disagree with everybody at one point or another, since we're all wired differently. And so how do we navigate this? I want to share with you some really practical ways that you can love people that you disagree with. So how do we love people that we disagree with? And in the last year or so, there's been lots of very hot topics and huge disagreements in the landscape around the country and around the world. But things like the politics, the last presidential election, we have probably, the number one hot button topic at the moment is vaccines. Do you get a vaccine for COVID or don't you? Now, I want to tell you the topics and the next big thing that we have to disagree on, those are never going to go away. I just want to let you know that. So if you're thinking, gosh, well, hopefully this will just die out so we can be done with all this tension. Yeah, guess what? There's always going to be reasons to disagree, and people who feel passionately on either sides of an issue. That's going to continue to happen. Okay, so instead, what you need to be focusing on is, how do I allow the Lord to help me and my heart, and how I respond to people around me who I disagree with. That's going to be the bigger issue. Okay? So the thing is that the enemy wants us to just duke it out and to, pull out our swords and, chop somebody's head off, not literally, but you know what I mean? Like just, and actually our flesh, that part of us, unless we're yielded to God's Spirit that wants to just have its way, that gets really ugly too. So what's the answer then? And I'm going to tell you the answer is love. That sounds really obvious, but it's true. Love that comes from God is going to be the answer. But I want to say more than that. I want to be more practical than that and say this, that love is a choice. Love is a choice we are making constantly, many times a day. Yes, love sometimes has warm feelings. I love that part of love, but there are different aspects to love, and sometimes love is making choices. So what are some of those choices that you can make so that you can love someone you disagree with? All right, one is to choose to honor. And that's really difficult when you're face-to-face with somebody who you really disagree with. So what does honor mean? Honor is celebrating who somebody is without stumbling over who they are not. And truly, it's what we want others to do for us as well, right? Because we're not always at our best, nor are the people that we're speaking to always going to be at their best. And so honor means you get to choose to look at who God created. Look at the wonder of how they are created as one who has infinite value and worth. And you can even remember, especially if you have a relationship with this person, a family member, a friend, remember some of the good qualities about them that maybe you aren't seeing right now. And that's how you can choose to honor, okay? The next I want to encourage you is to choose to seek to understand and not to win, like an argument. So choose to seek to understand what this person is saying. So if they have an opinion that's different than yours, one of the hardest things you can do is listen for what they're saying, not for what your response is as you start to feel your blood boil a little bit. No, push that back. This is what you have to do. You have to push that aside. This is what love does. Love looks like something. Love says, I'm going to put my opinions on the back burner and actually genuinely listen to what this person's saying and try to understand their opinion. Doesn't mean you have to agree. In fact, most people are pretty wholly strung to what they believe anyway. They're not going to be easily swayed. But you can still choose, and this is another way to honor, but you can choose to listen to this person, even ask a clarifying question or two. So it sounds like you believe, such and such, and they might add a little bit more. Well, actually, that's close, but it's really this, Now you actually can start to understand, or you might even go deeper and say, okay, what's behind that? Wow, I can see you feel really passionately about that. What's happened in your life that to give you such a strong feeling, and a strong belief about this? Now you're actually caring about them and their story. That takes it to a whole nother level. So there you go. These are very practical ways. Here's another one. Choose to build up and never to tear down. The reasons we tear people down is honestly because we actually are not loving ourselves the way that God loves us. We don't know this is what we're doing, but it's one of the reasons we will sometimes try to bring someone else down so that we feel a little bit better about ourselves or more important, or feel like our opinion is better. The reality is we just don't need to do that. We can always find reasons to build someone up. So if they have something that they're sharing that you disagree with, it's okay to say something like, gosh, I can see that you're really passionate about this and that you've thought a lot about it. That's actually something that builds them up. It doesn't mean you're agreeing, but it just means you're building them up. If you find that hard to do in the moment, that's okay. You don't have to say it right in the moment, but in that conversation, how about the next opportunity you have in this conversation? Choose to do something that's going to build up that person and share with them something about why you appreciate them. What about them is unique and wonderful. But do it with sincerity in your heart, okay? Because that's the thing, is that when you build people up, it kind of takes away all the weirdness of whatever that disagreement was. Here's another choice you can make. You can choose to extend grace to people and not to judge them. Extend grace, don't judge them. Extending grace, part of what that means is understanding in the moment that this person's in a process. And just as you would want someone else to extend grace to you if you're in the middle of a process, you're still thinking through things, you have your opinions that maybe you won't even agree with down the road, but somebody just chooses to love you anyway in the midst of trying to figure it out, you can give that gift to somebody else, because that's really what it is. Grace is a gift you're giving to somebody. It's the same gift the Lord gives to us. He says, I don't count your wrongs against you. Jesus is taking care of all of that. My grace gift is that I choose to love you because that's who I am. And it doesn't depend upon you or you earning it. And so we get to turn around and extend that very same grace to other people. And what that will do is that will take away that tendency to want to judge somebody else. Judging means that I know in this moment that I'm right and you're wrong, and I'm going to tell you so, and I'm going to put you in your place. Or we might not say that, but we might be feeling it. It may show up in the way we treat somebody. And the truth is, friends, we have no right to judge anybody. We don't. In fact, the Lord tells us the very same. And says basically, who are you to judge others, when the reality is God has chosen, because of all that Jesus has done for us, to hold nothing against us. So we get to turn around and do that for others. And here's another thing you can do, because love is a choice. So you can choose humility. You can choose humility, and that means you're not always going to be at your best. So when the time comes, if you do find yourself tearing somebody down, if you find yourself judging somebody, just admit it. And if you can admit it while it's happening, that's even better. But as soon as you realize what happened, even if it's later, especially when you know there was tension in a conversation. I encourage you, when you know a conversation didn't go well, instead of just mulling over what the other person did to make you so, irritated, instead, this is what I do. This is what the Lord has me do, is I try to go back and say, God, where did I contribute to that? What in my heart wasn't right? Because I know I added some things to that conversation that made it go a little sour. Once God begins to show you what that is, then in humility, you get to go to that person, call them back up, or whatever it is, go have another coffee with them and just tell them, hey, I'm so sorry. I realized later I judged you, and I really shouldn't have done that. I don't have a right to do that. I know the opinions you hold are very dear to you, and I want to honor that. I'm telling you that goes so far. That will repair so much so fast. And the only reason we wouldn't do it is because of pride. So humility is such a great gift. And something that's really going to help you to love people who have different opinions than you, people you disagree with, is to understand everybody has a story. This person you're disagreeing with, they have a story. That means things have happened in their lives, things that you don't even know about, that give them such strongly held opinions about certain things. And so if we can make it more about trying to learn someone's story rather than who's right or who's wrong, that is going to help so much in learning how to love people where they're at. Everything I just told you, all the different ways to choose to love, they really can only happen in the power of God's Spirit. Holy Spirit working in your heart. This is not something you're just going to learn tools. Tools are really good, and that's why I'm giving you some practical ones, things to think about. But ultimately, you can't see things about your own heart that you can't see. You can only see things as you ask God to show you some of even the hidden things in your own heart about why you reacted in a certain way. Because here's the thing, you have a story too. You do. And God knows that story. So God's not mad at you when you blow it and you don't love someone you disagree with, but He does He wants you to learn, and He wants to help you through that. He wants to actually help you grow. And so sometimes when we react strongly, when we judge, when we tear someone down, that's actually, believe it or not, an invitation from God to look at what happened inside of my heart that caused me to react so strongly. Because there's something that's going to be there. And if you want to see it, God will help you to see it. And then you get to work with God as He says, good, thank you for asking. This is what's going on. Wouldn't you like me to heal that place in your heart? Or let's go explore that time when someone tore you down and really, took you to a bad place. He'll help you. He'll walk through it with you. This is what God does in the midst of all these interactions, even when we don't get it quite right. He says that's okay, because God's working on so many different levels in our hearts and other people's hearts, because He so loves us. He so loves people. So back to the original question, do I have to love people who I disagree with? No, you don't have to. You get to. This is actually God's gift, because He actually puts people around us who are different than us, which is everybody, because He wants us to learn how to love. And so we're going to have to learn to overcome the different opinions and realize that love and choices to honor and choices to understand, choices to build up, choices to extend grace, these are ways that are actually going to build us up in the ways of love and make us more and more like Jesus, which is really what God's intention is. Okay? So here's my encouragement to you as I've been sharing with you, and maybe some things have come up. Maybe there's been a conversation lately that was pretty hard. Maybe there's one coming up later today or tomorrow where you're going to think about these things. But I want to encourage you, whenever you need to, stop and take some time with God. And maybe it's right now, right after this video, just stop and take a few moments and say, Lord, yeah, I'm thinking about that conversation. You're bringing that to my mind, that one that didn't go so well. yeah, I need you to show me, Lord, what was going on inside of my heart, and where do I need to humble myself, not just before you, Lord, but also before this person that I really started to react against, and I was part of how this conversation went sideways. This is, if we would all do this, we would start to see more and more relationships healing rather than deteriorating. What a gift, right? This is God's gift to us, is the gift of love, the gift of how love changes relationships and makes them better. So, yeah, I just bless you as you keep navigating the conversations that you're in, where there are disagreements. Just know that God is there with you. He'll help you through it. Thank you, too, for those of you who are subscribing and even, turning on the notice so that you know when the videos come in. Even for this, I encourage you to drop something down below here if you want to just share, ways in which you've, what things that have helped you in disagreements you've had, because this isn't an exhaustive list. It's just some things I thought about to help you out. So I bless you on the journey.